Welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast, the horror movie podcast that boils and ghouls and dead alike are screaming for. Don't be afraid to listen as Rick and the Creeps bore their way into your brains, slither down onto your arteries, into your still beating hearts.
Hi, welcome to the Ear for Fear podcast. This is the podcast that talks about scary movies or movies trying to be scary. I'm Rick. I got a guest in the house today. I got my cousin Scott Weisenhunt. He's back in here. How you doing, bud?
Hello, doing good.
Thanks for coming on out, man. I was thinking about this. You haven't been out here since we did Psycho Gorman, right? I think that was the last. We did. I know we did Videodrome, and then I think we did Psycho Gorman, right?
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. So welcome back, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Today, you and I are going to be talking about a movie I think I recommended, and that is
I'd never heard of it.
You never heard of
The Stuff.
Let's do it. Let's do a proper The Stuff.
The stuff is here now. Great new day sensation. Light and free now. Get you elevation. Enough is never enough. Enough is never enough of the stuff.
Yeah, you like that? That was pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. I don't know why I recommended this. I had a feeling you hadn't seen it, and I had bought it last year. I hadn't owned it. Like, I saw it like a long, long time ago, and then I kind of just forgot about it, and then I'm like, I don't want to buy that and revisit it because I hadn't seen it in a long time. And it's funny, I watched it last year, and I was like, okay, it's okay, And then when I watch a movie for like the podcast versus like an entertainment value, I put on like a different hat.
Yeah, right.
So last year when I watched it, it was just strictly I wanted to watch it. Now this time it was for the podcast, and I looked at it differently. And what's funny, dude, is I actually enjoyed it more this time than when I watched it last year.
Why is that?
I think it's just because I went into it a different way, analyzing it and understanding what Larry Cohen was trying to do with this. And and when I'm watching, I'm like, well, he's doing all this stuff on purpose. Like when I watched it last year, I was like, really? And this time I'm like, no, he's doing all the stuff he's doing is just on purpose. It's kind of satirical, right?
Yeah. And that's what I realized about 10 minutes into the movie. At first, I started thinking like, this is kind of funny, but I don't know if it's intentionally funny or if it's not intentionally funny. And then we get into the second scene of the movie, and where he's meeting the people and he's shaking hands, and we can get into the story and everything, but where he's talking about everybody having sweaty hands. Like,
yeah.
And I realized right then and there that this was a comedy. And that's when I was like, okay, this.
Yeah. So before I guess we jump into it, let's kind of, I guess I'll do a quick synopsis. Basically, The Stuff from 1985. There's this mysterious goo or ooze that is kind of unearthed, and it's this white kind of substance. And of course, the first thing to decide to do is let's taste it. And of course, it's like really, really good, right? And it becomes like this huge like sensation, right? It's like the it dessert. But what happens is the American public, like they do in the 80s, right? They consume, becomes this humongous like product, right? But it starts taking over them, and they're kind of like zombie-like creatures. That's kind of the gist of, I think, the stuff.
Yeah, right.
Sound about right?
Yeah,
to you?
it kind of becomes a big conspiracy thing.
Yeah.
It takes over everybody and the government and a few people.
Yeah. So I guess before we do it, let's warn the listeners about spoilers.
1, 2, spoilers coming for you.
All right, you've been warned. So if you haven't seen the stuff, we're going to spoil the hell out of it for you. What's interesting is, okay, I'm a huge fan of The Blob, and I'm trying to remember when The Blob came out. I think this was 85. Was The Blob?
Yeah, I've never seen that. I keep wanting to. No, it's on my list.
Oh my God, dude, you'll love it.
Yeah,
you will love it.
I have a feeling I'll really
it is It's interesting. We recently did.
Who's the director of that one?
Oh shit! You're putting me on the spot. I forget
It's
who.
somebody
I forget who the
famous, right?
of the Blob. No, are you thinking of Slither?
No.
Okay. Shit. Now I can't remember. We did an episode on the Blob.
Okay.
And we did an episode with Morris, Darren, and I where we did our top 5 monster movies, and that made pretty much the list on almost all of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a really good movie, and the effects are phenomenal. I mean, seriously, dude, the practical effects are killer. You're going to love it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you need to check it out. Now, the stuff's effects aren't so much that great, right?
Right.
But it's on purpose.
What is it, 80? What is it, 85?
85, yeah, 85 for this stuff.
It doesn't
yeah.
need to be. It's fine. You get the
You get
the idea.
Yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea. And looking back, going, well, I'm sure it was a smaller budget. I mean, Larry Cohen did I think he did a lot of black exploitation films in the 70s. Mm-hmm. I think he did like Hell Up in Harlem and God Told Me To, and then he did some horror movies. It's Alive, and I think he did something else, and I can't remember it right now. But I don't think all his stuff was. I mean, right? It's like low budget. Yeah. It's kind of lower budget. I think he more so maybe has a message about his movies and doesn't really care about the big budget stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think this really, if you think about it, kind of fell under that category, right?
Right.
Mid 80s consumerism, right? Really, he's really digging at, people in the 80s. Again, one of the taglines is "Enough is never enough," and that would have been, I think, most Americans in the 80s. Right. About
the greed and just accumulating and advertising just ramped up in the 80s big time. Especially when they started marketing to children.
Oh, for sure. For sure, man. I mean, I remember. I mean, hell, I was a kid in the 80s. I mean, let's see, mid 80s. Let's see, 1985, I would have been 13.
That was like right smack in the middle of just, all these television shows that were basically creating TV shows to sell toys to kids. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the beginning of, how things are now.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't remember what the 70s were like as for advertising, but I think it absolutely took it to another level and ramped it up in the 80s.
I think there were some regulations a little bit on advertising, and then at a certain point they just stopped.
Did they?
Yeah, they stopped enforcing that stuff. There was some stuff during, I think, like I can't remember right, but the late 60s and 70s about not being, not so much laws, but regulations about advertising straight to children and things like that. So it kind of took a dip around that time. And then I think people just stopped caring and kind of went with the way society was going and with our economy, especially in the late 70s and early 80s.
I could see that, right? Like, boom. You could almost say late 60s through the 70s with the, Vietnam and other, the hippie movement and all the other stuff. They
weren't really stuff for kids.
Yeah, I could see that really not being, I don't know, so much of a thing.
Yeah, right.
And then I think when, let's say the economy got better, in the 80s and everything was in abundance. I mean, and I think this is really kind of Larry Cohen's jab at that. I mean, you see, John Carpenter does it later on in the 80s with They Live.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, yeah.
I would say it's, I believe John Carpenter's version is a little better, but you're talking about probably a bigger budget and stuff like that. And but I mean, you kind of get what he's doing with this movie.
Yeah. I think what separates this one from a lot of the other, like They Live, is the focus on advertising though too. Yeah. There's a big focus on advertising and how they're pulling out all the stops of what they need to do to market the stuff and maximize their clientele and all these different things that, the lady who's in charge of the advertising company is part of the...
Oh yeah, what was her name? Nicole or something like that. Yeah. I think her name was Nicole. Was that her name? The actor. I think it was David was the main guy, right? And then Nicole was, she was doing all the advertising, and then she didn't realize what the hell they were selling.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but I mean, what I loved about it was what I had read was Larry Cohen's idea was they filmed all these fake commercials for the stuff, and what he wanted to do instead of doing like normal trailers for the movie, he wanted to run commercials on network TV. And so he could pique the interest of people going, what the hell is this? You know, is this some new dessert? All right. I'm intrigued. And then as it got closer for the movie to come out, drop a trailer like, well, here's what you've been seeing the whole time. It's a movie.
That would have been so ahead of its time.
Yeah. But the studio didn't want him to do that.
Yeah, I could see that. They weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for the viral craze back then.
Right now, that's a no-brainer, right?
Right, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's really smart.
Yeah.
He was ahead of his time for this.
And so what they did is, of course, during the movie, they have, commercials for the stuff.
Yeah.
Did you
starring Abe Vigoda?
Yeah, Abe Vigoda, and what was her name? Clara is it Peller? She's the one that remember the where's the beef lady?
That's a little bit.
Is that before you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I know
that might be like early 80s.
It was. Well, this is 85. I want to say Where's the Beef? And again, I'm probably wrong, but 83 to 85 because she was Where's the Beef for? I'm trying to remember. Was it for Wendy's? I don't know. That for some reason that's jumping in my head, but I'm not positive if it was for Wendy's. But I'm trying to think back, and I'm like, it wouldn't have been for. I don't think it would have been for Burger King. McDonald's absolutely not. Wouldn't have done it. Carl's wouldn't have done it. So I'm thinking it was either Burger King or Wendy's, and I'm pretty sure it was Wendy's. But that was a huge thing, man. You would go everywhere, and like I remember going to the auction when the auction was a thing out here in Roseville, and the Roseville auction, and you go and people are selling shirts, and there's "Where's the Beef" shirt, or there was one where it said "Where's the Beef" and it had an arrow if you were a guy and it was pointing down.
Really?
yeah. But it was such a huge thing. I forgot that was even in the movie.
That's funny.
Yeah, and Abe Vigoda. I mean, most people, the younger crowds aren't going to remember who Abe Vigoda is.
I couldn't believe he had a cameo in that.
Yeah, he had a little cameo in that. Yeah. So, but yeah, I guess we could run down the main characters. David is the main guy.
Mo. Like people call him
Mo.
Because
if
anybody gives him something he always wants Mo.
He wants Mo.
Which is such a strange character, played by Michael Moriarty from Law and Order, is what I recognized him
Law
from.
and Order. I recommend him from Pell Rider with Clint Eastwood. And if you've never seen Pell Rider, great Western. Again, mid 80s, I think. If I was to guess, I'd say 86 for Pell Rider. He's excellent in that, dude.
Okay, I can't remember. I can't play some of that. Pell Rider is the one where Eastwood plays the Reverend.
He comes into town. Yeah. He's so Moriarty would be like the main guy next to him.
Okay, I can kind of
remember. He's the one that had the woman that they weren't married. And then she had the daughter that was probably about 15 or 16 that had a crush on Clint Eastwood. Do you remember that? He was. Okay. That's what I remember him from. I don't recall seeing him in Law and Order, but I really didn't watch Law and Order.
It's like I think the first or one of the first versions of Law and Order. I do remember him.
I know he was in Larry Cohen's film called Q, which I'd never seen. But I know he's had him in other movies. Interesting story. I know the listeners aren't going to care. Remember when we used to go camping up in Idaho? Mm-hmm. Okay. They filmed Pell Rider where we camped.
Really?
Yeah. So if you remember, great grandma and great grandpa met Clint Eastwood when he was filming Pell Rider there. You never heard that story, huh?
No.
Yeah. They met Clint Eastwood when he was filming. I can't remember what part. I want to say it was Sun Valley, Idaho, but I could be wrong. But yeah. I think they said they had met him or like they were there when he was filming.
Why have I never heard that?
I don't know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. But anyways, I know it. Like the listeners, like, well, I don't give a crap. That's right. Well, we're not talking about Pell Rider. We're talking about the stuff. Well, damn it, it's my podcast. I'll talk about whatever I want. But anyways, so we have David Nicole, Chocolate Charlie. Played by what was it? Garrett
Morris?
Garrett Morris, which people know from Saturday Night Live, and I know he's done other stuff. So, okay, I wanted to look this up, but I'm going to bring it up. From what I understand, the Chocolate Charlie's character is loosely based on Famous Amos.
Oh, really?
Do you know the Famous Amos cookies?
No. Well, I mean, yeah, but
you've heard of the cookies, Famous Amos. So supposedly the Famous Amos cookies were developed created by this gentleman, and not this guy, and what happened was the board pushed him out to where he was literally regulated, he basically was pushed to do like commercials. So like he wasn't even part of like the company anymore. He was basically the spokesperson after he started the company. So Chocolate Charlie here in this movie is supposed to kind of be loosely based on that.
Wow.
I didn't look it up to confirm it, but that's what I heard.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah. So
kind of him taking aim at that sort of, cutthroat corporate
right?
mentality.
Like, I mean, how horrible is that? You create the company, right? The brand, the product, and everything else, and then somehow your board of directors finds a way to push you out.
Yeah.
And then regulates, or basically says, regulate. No, relegates. God damn, it's still.
You can cut
early.
that out.
I know, right? No, it's still early in the morning. I'm still trying to. I haven't had anything, so I'm trying to like figure that out. But yeah, I mean, and then they push you out, and you just you're doing commercials now when it's like, and so the Chocolate Charlie character is supposed to be kind of loosely based on that. Again, I didn't confirm that.
There's some layers to this movie, and it's I'm glad I kind of picked it up because it's definitely one I want to watch more and learn about more, and something I could watch on a yearly basis, or
Relegate. Okay, that's the word of the day. Jesus Christ, I don't know, man. It's still early. Colonel Spears, played by Paul Sorvino.
Yes, yeah, that
right.
was nice to
that's
see
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I met.
Really?
I did before he passed away. I met him maybe 3 or 4 years ago at a horror convention. Okay, I'll tell the story because I was quite sad about it. So I knew he was coming to the horror convention, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'll have him sign a poster from the stuff. Now he's been in a ton of other stuff, especially like Goodfellas, right? I mean, I'm sure he signs Goodfellas all the time, or he did. But I'm like, no, I want to have him sign the stuff. And so I found this kind of cool, obscure kind of poster that, I'm like, okay, I bet you he's never signed this, And so I go to the convention, and there's other people there, and he shows up later. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Everyone else is here, but, and there's a little table that says, reserved for Paul Sorvino. He shows up, and I'm like, okay, I'll wait in line. No one was in line. He looked like he had no idea where he was at.
Aww.
It looked like they had taken him out of a retirement or rest home and stuck him and plopped him down in this chair to have him sign autographs. It was sad.
Wow.
It was sad. And so I tried to, talk with him a little bit, and I brought out the poster, and I forget what he said.
Did you remember the movie?
He didn't really seem to remember the movie.
Oh, man.
But he signed it, and I just felt so like terrible. Like, I mean, he honestly looked like he just didn't know.
Yeah,
and then I died a couple years later,
Yeah. I would have had him sign a Rocketeer poster.
Rocketeer?
Yeah. That's my favorite.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what's interesting, I had read that his daughter, Mira Sorvino, her first film was The Stuff, but I don't know if she's credited. She's one of the...
Oh, yeah. I saw that. Did she get like cut out or something?
I don't think she got cut out. I think what it is there's a scene towards the end of the movie, I think they go into the warehouse, and then all the workers like do like this mass suicide and kill themselves. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, right.
Supposedly she's one of the bodies. Okay. But they don't know which body of hers. And I was trying to like pause it to see, and I could. It was so quick I couldn't tell.
Okay.
And then Vickers was played by Danny Aiello, which I thought was kind of interesting.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Danny. Yeah. So I guess the story is
Moonstruck and Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Hollywood Nights.
Yeah.
With Eddie Murphy.
Oh, right.
And Richard Pryor. I think it's Hollywood Nights.
Oh, another Godfather 2. Him and Babe Pagoda are both in Godfather 2.
Danny Aiello's in Godfather 2?
I think Godfather 2 is the one he's in.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember him in Godfather 2. I'll be honest, though, it's a movie like when it's on, I'll watch, but then I'm like, I always catch it like halfway through or 20 minutes in. I don't remember Danny Aiello in that. I mean, I know Abe Vigoda, but yeah, interesting. That's kind of the main characters, I guess. I don't know. Maybe we're missing someone. I don't know.
No, I think
that's kind of everyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good cast.
It's a pretty good cast.
For a low budget 1985.
Yeah, I'm
horror
surprised that he was able to get, say, Paul Sorvino or Danny Aiello. I mean, I think they had
Was that before things had kind of...
I think that what I had read, again, was he used to frequent this bar or this restaurant, and a lot of actors would come in.
Oh, okay.
And I think what happened is they came in, and he probably asked them. And
friends with them.
yeah. I don't recall. Goodfellas was late 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah. Was it Goodfellas 89 or 90?
89 or 90, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure he did other stuff prior to that. I just don't know how big he was at the time.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, maybe they were buddies, or maybe they frequented some, like, they had some drinks, some wine or some food together, and they're like, hey, I got this movie called The Stuff. What do you think?
It would make
Sure,
sense. Yeah, that they were friends, because who would if they were who would sign on for that? You know,
I don't know, man. I think the idea was this was supposed to be like this satirical comedy, and then the studio wanted to be more horror.
Okay, yeah.
I think that was Larry Cohen's kind of vision.
Because he had done like the It's Alive, and those are more straight horror type,
more straight
yeah.
horror.
So So the studio wanted him to make him basically a horror film, and he is like, no, I want to.
Yeah, he wants to
do this parody.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely horror elements, right? I mean, you know, you go out to IMDb, it definitely says horror. But I mean, there's a lot of humor. There's a lot of stuff that's just they're making fun of themselves, and they're making fun of the times. They really are. It's a dig at, you know.
The whole movie's hilarious. It
is.
Everything's played for laughs almost.
It really is.
It's not in a complete ridiculous way. I was trying to think of movies that this was similar to, and I know it was like some movies that come to mind are like a little bit like Dawn of the Dead has a lot of. It's less of a comedy, but it definitely has a lot of
political like stuff. Yeah,
parodying some of the stuff at the time. Consumerism.
Yep.
Gremlins and Gremlins 2 come to mind. I know those are after this movie.
Yeah.
But it seems like maybe Joe Dante got some inspiration from this.
Could have been.
Especially with Gremlins 2, which
is
straight. I love Gremlins 2.
Do you like Gremlins 2?
Because once you realize kind of like the stuff, when you realize what he was going for, it's a complete satire about everything in America at that time, and just sequels in general.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? I haven't seen Gremlins 2 forever. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I think I own it, but I haven't watched it. So maybe I need to like revisit that to kind of see.
Put that idea in your head that the whole thing is basically just.
Well, I mean, I would argue Poltergeist, if you really think about it. So yeah, if you really think about Poltergeist, there is a lot of it's kind of underlining marketing everywhere throughout. It's riddled throughout the movie. If you rewatch Poltergeist now, you'll see it. It's all over the place, man. You know, and then the fact that, you know, again, greed, right? So we're basically just gonna move the headstones. We're gonna leave the bodies because it would just cost way too much money, and we're just gonna build over the top of their bodies. It's about money, man. And then, like I said, riddled throughout is just random product shit that doesn't belong in this movie, and it's crazy, man. And so yeah,
okay.
But anyways, yeah. I mean this movie doesn't really waste any time, right? So
it just gets right in.
It just gets right into it.
I thought something was wrong with the streaming. I thought there was something cut out. Yeah, it just starts with just a guy out there in an industrial area, and he sees white stuff coming out of the ground and decides to put it in his mouth.
I mean, right? It's the American way, man. In the 80s, so let's just put everything in our mouth.
Everything.
Let's just try everything. It's white.
It
looks good.
It's bubbling.
It's bubbling. Yeah, because that's the first thing I want to do with anything is bubbling out of the ground. I want to go and try it.
Right, yeah. Put it right in my face hole.
Yeah. But yeah, he tastes it, and then they just immediately start manufacturing this dessert product.
Cut to, like, after that, and it's like the biggest thing in America. It's gone from that to
we don't even know how much time has passed.
Right, yeah.
We have like no idea. There is a lot of
there's some cut scenes or something. There
Yeah.
must be some stuff laying on the cutting room floor that he didn't get to put in. The
I
movie.
bet you there is. I think that he'd filmed a lot more, and then they made him cut it out for time. Because I mean, think about it, man. I mean, okay, we're calling this a horror movie in the '80s. You get 90 minutes. You don't go more than 90 minutes on a horror movie. You just don't. And after that, and I'll be honest, dude, I'm so used to that. Nowadays, when I sit down to watch a horror movie, I'm like, why is this like 2+ hours?
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure it's good, but I don't want 2+ hours. I want to be in and out in like 90 minutes.
Yeah. After 90 minutes, you start checking your phone.
You do, unless it's really, really good. And there's not a lot that do that. I mean, Hereditary comes to mind because I think it's over 2 hours.
You start overstaying your welcome if you're trying to get people in with that atmosphere and you can only
Yes.
like keep people in suspense for so long.
So long,
It's got to
yeah.
have a lot more to it if you're gonna overstay that.
Exactly. And most horror movies don't. Most horror movies don't have those layers, right?
Right. Yeah.
There's a maybe a couple layers, and that is it, dude. That's all you're gonna get.
And that's fine.
And that's okay.
That's great. Yeah.
I know when I'm going into a horror movie, I don't need all of those layers unless it's a specific type of movie.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but yeah, dude. I mean, like literally, it is like the biggest thing, in like literally in America at the time. Who knows? I don't know if they marketed this overseas, but in America it is. So then you got these kind of rich bastards who want to somehow steal the recipe or the ingredients, but they can't figure out what's in it.
Yeah.
So they hire David or Mo. And you get they basically say he used to work for the FBI but got kicked off.
Right.
So
He's a shady character.
He's a little shady.
And he has this southern drawl,
Yes.
which is again played for laughs. That's when I realized this was a comedy movie. So that scene, he comes in, and that whole scene is ADR'd. It's all the dialogue's added in afterwards. I think maybe because they're filming it on a yacht.
Yes.
And there may have been some wind blowing through there
So
or something.
and it's interesting you're saying that because I was like, the dialogue doesn't match up for me.
Yeah, the whole
thought
thing
it was
is
just
ADR.
me.
No,
Okay,
that
is.
entire thing, and it makes it funnier.
It does. It does.
Because when he first comes in, and there's like the guy that brings him in that he ends up punching out later. He's
just
saying
punch him.
things that his mouth isn't moving. So I'm like, okay, there's his ADR. But then that coupled with the southern drawl of Mo.
Yeah.
And then when he comes in and shakes people's hands and starts talking about, oh, you got sweaty palms. How about you? Oh, you got some sweaty palms. And he shakes like 5 people's hands and talks about how they're sweaty palms. And I laughed like hysterically.
Did you?
And I knew right then. I was like, okay, I know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean,
That changes the entire movie for me. Like right then and there, you're set.
Well, what's interesting to me is like, okay, so we're thinking, okay, he's kicked off the FBI. They've hired him to kind of figure out, So you're thinking he's kind of probably an a-hole, and it doesn't take long for you to like this guy and realize he's literally just trying to figure out what's going on with the stuff, what's in the stuff, and why is it doing all this. I keep saying this stuff. Why is it doing these things to these people? What's happening here? And so, but it's a quick, dude. It's like a quick change.
Yeah.
It doesn't waste any time. Because I'm thinking, he's going to take some time to try to figure out, the secret ingredients and what can he do to do this. And it doesn't take long. Like he goes to, I think it seems like he has a lab.
Right. He's got some people he's already working on.
His folks, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it's his folks. It's like his lab. And we see a few scenes of that. And then I think there's a scene where he goes to like Danny Aiello, Vickers, because he's trying to find people and all of them have either moved out of state and disappeared.
Right.
I don't know if someone moved out of the country or they just retired. And he's like, this is kind of weird, right? Like they approved this very quick,
and then they all just
disappeared. So what's going on? And so he goes to visit Vickers, and it was weird because it was like I thought Vickers would just not want to talk to him,
right?
But he seemed to be very kind of forthcoming with well, here's some of the data we did.
And he's got a dog that is like was it a Doberman?
Dude, I don't know what that thing looked like, a Doberman, but like some monstrous on steroid
Like a
Doberman, but big, like big
like
ass
a
dog.
Rottweiler / Doberman, like
Yeah,
big dog, and
huge.
he's afraid of his own dog.
Yeah,
Like
because I guess we find out that he's been feeding the stuff
Stuff to the dog.
to the dog, and then the dog like attacks him. And dude, this was funny. Like, again, rewatching it, like watching it last year, I was like, this is hella like cheesy and just this looks terrible. Then now I'm like, okay, I get it. And it's like, it looks so bad. Like there's a scene where the dog is like attacking him. And then it pans to like the dog, and then the dog is nowhere near. It was weird.
Yeah.
Dude. It was so.
It looks
funny.
like a high school like cut this
Yes,
movie, you know.
Yes, it totally does. Like we did some project in high school, whatever it was, and we cut it and pieced it together for something. And it looked just
and,
like that.
No other like money or anything else involved. Just like a guy shooting it, a guy under the table, and a dog. And it's like, okay, it looks like it's attacking you. Just do that. Just shake
kinda
the dog.
That. Yeah, pretend like it is. Yeah, it looks so bad, but it's humorous, man.
So like that scene, he does get the information from the mindset of Vickers. Does he realize that the stuff is bad news because he's been feeding it to his dog and his dog's crazy, so he wants to give him information? Like what? That's the thing that confused me about what is.
Yeah, I didn't.
What's his motivation?
I didn't get the intent there. I don't know. I guess we could just assume because the dog went crazy and all he does is. But isn't he eating it himself?
Yeah, I can't remember. I've only seen it the one time. I wanted to go back and rewatch it again immediately.
Shit, I thought he was eating it himself, but maybe he was just feeding it to his dog. Shit, and then maybe that was the reason he did that. Was maybe someone else. It was let's get it out there. Someone else can.
Yeah.
Before
this dog kills me.
But the thing is this, right? I mean, just close the door and leave your dog inside the room, and then and if you have something to say, go and find someone and say it.
But it's not his dog anymore. It's this thing controlled by the stuff, which is.
But I mean, it's still a dog, though. Okay, it's this thing controlled by the stuff in a dog's body.
Right. Yeah.
It still has 4 legs and barks. I mean, just throw him in a room and
just put it down.
well, I mean, I don't know, right? I mean, in hindsight, but whatever.
It's goofy.
I mean, it's goofy, but it kind of works. I mean, but it gets David or Mo going to start. And then he I think he visits Nicole, who's shooting a commercial for the stuff because she's this advertising guru, and so but he immediately like sweet talks her.
But she
sweet
talks him back like
like I don't even understand.
Well, she thinks he's gonna buy her entire company.
Yes, that was
So they're trying to play each other. He's trying to get information from her, and she thinks he's buying her company. So they basically go back to his hotel room, and
which is just strange, right? Like I don't know, man. I mean, but nothing.
The conversation there is hilarious. It's like, what's your favorite restaurant?
Yeah.
He asks her, and then she's like, well, do they serve food where you're staying, where your hotel is?
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah. I don't know. But they start doing some digging, and don't they go to this... at what point do they go to that little small town?
Well, that's the thing where I thought that there was some scenes cut out, because after that, nothing ever happens. He goes to that small town, and I think that's where he meets Chocolate Charlie.
Yes, because Chocolate Charlie has the because he comes to town and like it looks like a ghost town, and he goes to get gas.
That's the town where everybody's supposed to be leaving to, where he hears that everybody's left.
Are they left to, or are they left from?
Oh, everybody's disappearing. Had their mail rerouted to that town.
Yeah, was it in Georgia? I thought it was in Georgia.
I think so.
I thought it was in Georgia.
So he goes there.
Yeah, and then this car pulls up, and it's kind of weird. And he walks up to the car, and no one's in the car, and then Chocolate Charlie's
a karate over the car,
kicks him, and then it's odd, man. Like it's it feels like, yes, you're right in a sense where it feels like some scenes just, it cuts straight to something, but it's like, what happened before that? And I think there's probably another 30 plus minutes that would make more sense with this.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe in hindsight, would it answer some of our questions? Yeah, but then would it make the movie any better? It may not. It may not. More than likely, that's why it got cut out.
Yeah, or it was stuff that the studio, because they wanted a horror movie. He wanted something else, and stuff that they.
And I bet you, and I think I thought I read this, but I wonder if they'd they had a final say cut of this, right? And then I'm
It's
like,
probably
what's
3 hours long?
probably. And then the studios go, okay, you need to cut all that out, but we need some more horror elements. Because they always do that in a horror movie.
Sure, yeah.
You know, especially if a director has something in mind. You know,
yeah.
he's going into this going, no, this is a satirical comedy, but
Like, don't think those thoughts. Don't
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Don't think.
Yeah, don't think.
We want people splattering and yeah.
or being consumed or somehow, by this stuff. But honestly, there's not a lot of that happening. There's a few scenes here and there.
There's some fun practical
There is
things where it comes out of people's bodies and
or when Jason, we haven't even talked about Jason yet, the kid with the real blue eyes.
Oh,
That was actually his. So the brother in the movie was actually his brother in real life.
they looked a lot like
they
looked like.
The other actor, I forget his brother's name, but I think he just goes by his brother. They wanted him, but he was too old, and so he goes, "Well, I have a brother." And so they loved him, and so they used him because, dude, their eyes are like literally the same, man. they look just piercing. And so when he opens up the fridge because he's hungry, and he comes downstairs and he opens up the fridge in the middle of the night, and the stuff is like moving,
Right, yeah.
and then the dad, dude, was it me? Okay, was it because the parents had been eating the stuff, but they were total dicks.
Yeah, that's that. So at first I'm like, who acts like this? The kid just goes down in the middle of the night, and he's like 11 years old. It's not like he's a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And the dad basically almost beats him for just being
Yes.
up at night.
He whooped his ass. I'm like, what the hell?
What's happening? But then you realize they're all eating the stuff.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got that after the fact that they're probably like out of their minds because of that.
Being taken over.
But either way, it's funny as hell, and it does feel out of place until you realize that. But that's the other thing. This movie has a B story. It has a completely side story about a family and a boy who doesn't want to take the stuff, and his family is all consumed by the stuff and trying to force it down his throat. And it ends up circle back around because he ends up meeting Mo.
Mo, yeah.
I mean, that's a really cool thing too. You don't see that in a lot of it's just straight horror movies, especially 80 movies at that time. You know, low budget. It's got that whole other facet of the family life. They're all around the TV constantly watching commercials and just consuming this stuff.
Yes. I mean, they're eating the hell out of this thing.
And then that's where they talk about that basically it's become every meal for them.
Yeah.
Because it has everything they need, and it's like low in calories,
It's
and
low,
it
yeah,
tastes
it
good.
tastes great. Literally everything else in the fridge is gone.
They've thrown all their food away.
It's just the stuff. But what's interesting is when they try to get him to eat it, and they just let him, well, just go to your room and eat it. Like, really? You're not even going to watch him eat it? And then he replaces it with shaving cream. And then when he goes downstairs and it tries to convince him, like, I'm on your guys' side now. I love this. And he's eating shaving cream.
Yeah.
And then he goes to like yak. And then, but the way Mo finds out about the kid is, is it Jason? Is that his name? Yeah, Jason. Is that his name? Jason, right? Yeah. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
He goes into the supermarket and just goes crazy and literally anything that has the stuff, he's knocking. This is what's interesting. It's on shelves. But it's not refrigerated. But then it's in
refrigerator part, and then it's in a freezer part,
in a freezer part, and then it's like one of those like pyramids they
right,
build
like in the middle of the aisle.
It's like
everywhere.
But then he has time to go through this whole supermarket or grocery store and knock everything down, and not until like towards the end does any of the workers try to tackle him. Like, what the hell, dude?
They're all pitching a fit because it's the stuff and he's trashing it, but no one's
doing
anything about
anything.
it. It's like this.
You would think almost if people are so addicted to it, like there would be immediate, like, I know he sees a little kid in a shopping cart and he knocks it out of his hand. And you would think, like, if it was so addicting, someone would, like, I don't know, whoop his ass or beat him or something.
But then we wouldn't get a 3-minute scene of him just running around a store.
And he wouldn't make the newspaper, which led to Mo finding him, because Mo goes, okay, well, what does he know?
Right.
And that's when he goes and he goes to wherever Jason lives, and he's running out of the house because the family's chasing him. What did they call? What was the name they gave themselves? Was it Stuffers?
Oh yeah. They started called Stuffies. Stuffies. That's like a pejorative for people that are hooked on the stuff.
They're Stuffies. They're not junkies. They're Stuffies.
And that's like Paul Sorvino's character. They start calling that at the end too. Yeah. Stuffies.
But anyways, he jumps into Mo's car, doesn't know the guy at all, but jumps in the car.
Hop in, kid.
Yeah, hop in, and then they hop on a plane and they fly to wherever the hell they flew. I think it was back to that town, wasn't it? Or wherever the shit is oozing out of the ground is where they flew to.
Yeah. They find out. Is that where the town they find out where the people's mail are going, and then there's a forwarding address to another?
I think
place?
So. It gets a little confusing. Like I know they were meeting up with like some of the. It seemed like the higher ups for the stuff, because Nicole has some clout, right? Does she own part of the stuff, or she's just strictly advertising?
I thought she was just part of the advertising
firm
that was handling all of this stuff.
I think so too. But because I think she's done all the advertising, she has some pull, and she's able to get like a tour of this facility.
Right. Yeah.
And so but in the meantime, they leave Jason in this private plane, and he's just sleeping it off. And they're like, well, if we're not back in 3 hours, just take him here. I'm like, well, what?
Right.
Like some of this stuff just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, a lot of it's just getting things from point A to point B. That definitely in a normal movie, I'd be like, wait, what? This doesn't make any sense. In a Marvel film, I'd be like, what? Like, this is stupid. But considering this entire movie is basically like a satire,
it is. It is.
It's kind of okay.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, you forgive a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
Well, okay. God damn, we keep saying this stuff, but no pun intended there. But we forgive a lot of the things that we're seeing throughout the movie. That we're like, okay, we're questioning this, or what's up with the scene cutting, and this just goes, it goes straight to this, and it's like, okay, but we forgive it all, because it kind of really, when it's all said and done, it's goofy and it makes fun, but it kind of works, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it more this time. Because again, I watched it last year, and I remember a lot about it, and I'm like, okay, I know what they're doing here.
Sure, yeah.
And so
it's the intent of a film too. His intent. I mean, you can tell there was a lot of, he was sincere in his wanting to make a movie that had some commentary, and wanting to make a kind of a fun movie. So, with those types of films, with the intent, you kind of have to forgive some things, like,
yeah. But they take this tour. In the meantime, I think Jason wakes up in the plane, and the stuff takes over the pilot.
Right.
And he has to try
to leave.
Yeah. And he has to try to get out of the plane, which he does, and he just starts running. Right. And then I think he ends up where they're at this factory. I don't know how the hell he got there.
He gets on one of the. Doesn't he get in?
He gets in one of the big, like the big. What do you call them? The big rigs with.
It's supposed to have a bunch of stuff in it. Just got a place for stuff, like basically like a gasoline hauler.
Yeah.
But it's hollow, and
it's hollow.
Trapped in there,
and he jumps in there. But so they do a tour, and then do they end up? They do the tour, and they end up in this little hotel, right? David
Yeah,
or
that's
Mo and
right.
Nicole, right? And they're in the hotel, and then all of a sudden,
The stuff is in their pillows.
in the
and in
pillow.
the bed.
Yeah, so it comes out of the pillow. Okay, I got to tell you this part because I caught this, but it comes out of the pillow and it attaches to Mo's face, kind of like a hugger from Alien or something. And they're trying to figure out how to get this shit off. So she goes, well, let me just light it on fire while it's on his face.
Like, don't touch it. Don't. And then, she pours some like lighter fluid on it. And
I think she puts lighter fluid on.
it's oil from the. Isn't there a lamp there?
Yes.
Yeah.
She pours that on, lights it on fire. In the meantime, so this is the scene that cracked me up. Okay, so Mo, the actor who plays Mo is bald. And so Larry Cohen actually got him a really expensive toupee. That's what he's wearing in the film. This isn't his real hair. But so when it lights on fire, you can quickly see his bald head.
Really?
Like I think the toupee moves or something or falls off.
Okay.
And I think they just decided to leave it in the film, but it's so quick
Yeah.
that you don't like. I think you probably wouldn't pay attention unless you rewatch it a few times. But I had read that it was because in Pale Rider he's bald, and I've seen the actor enough times to know that he doesn't really have any hair, a little bit of hair on the sides. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so then they get the stuff off. But didn't some guy come into the room and try to like do
starts
something?
attacking him?
Yeah, starts attacking him, and
another
then
stuffy.
Yeah, another stuffy, and then all of the goo ends up on him on the wall, and then it starts moving. And I'd read that it's similar to the scene in Elm Street, the first Elm Street.
Right, yeah, exactly. Or like what's Inception, where they do the tilted hallway scene.
Yeah.
There's a Metallica video where they did that.
Yeah.
Where they basically station the camera on the set and they move the entire set around.
Yeah, like it's upside down so that the goo or the ooze it looks like it's attacking him, but it's really kind of just falling because he's,
the set is upside down. So it looks like the stuff is going up to the ceiling, but it's really it's all turned around.
It's all turned around.
And that's I love that. That's
it's
a neat
cool.
trick. Yeah.
It is a cool practical effect. You just
Yeah.
don't see shit like that anymore.
And it involves building an entire
Yes.
set, rotating the set.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I guess nowadays they wouldn't do it. They just CGI it right because it probably costs too much money, I guess. But I still think it's a cool effect.
No, it's great. I miss that kind of classic stuff.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so then I think at this point, okay, at what point? I think they go and they go to find Colonel Spears, right?
I think that's after they go back and they hijack
a truck.
They hijack the truck.
They hijack the truck that happens to have.
Because they find out where it's coming out of the ground, and it's this like rock quarry.
Yes,
and
a rock quarry,
and it's just like there's in the middle of this thing. There's just like this small lake, and it's all the stuff. It's just
interesting
pouring
because
out of the ground.
Yeah, it's kind of bubbling, right? But like these big ass kind of bubbles, and I don't know. Does it just keep manufacturing itself? Like that's just what it does?
Yeah.
Like they suck out all this goo and they put it in the trucks for all their product across the nation, and then it just replenishes itself.
I don't know.
I guess
these are questions we're not supposed to ask.
I know, right? I mean, is that what oil does? You suck out oil, right?
Yeah.
Out of the ground, but does it replenish itself?
There's a finite amount of oil on Earth, so
I
but you don't know. Well, is this an alien? It's some sort of. Is it just an ancient intelligence? I think these are questions we're not supposed to ask. It's just kind of a MacGuffin, right? To have his kind of message about consumerism and advertising and.
Well, I mean. It really is because, I mean, if you think about it, right? I mean, did we question a lot of shit in the 80s?
No.
I mean, we question stuff more now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but look how much access we have to things.
Yeah,
we can
true.
access just about anything anywhere. Back in the mid 80s, you didn't have that. You kind of just took their word for it, right?
Sure, yeah.
If someone packaged something and it looked really cool, you just kind of went with it.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the conversations he was having with Vickers about the FDA approved thing, and basically people just putting things in their face.
It through. And money talks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they throw a big cache of money at you, you're like, yeah, we'll approve that.
Yeah.
And honestly,
That's
I mean, if you think about it as a whole, right? The packaging was really cool. I would absolutely have bought that in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And the commercials were cool.
Sure.
Dude,
Yeah.
we would have absolutely bought that. Ate the shit out of that.
Definitely, yeah. Because I mean, look at all the stuff that we did consume. I mean, that's kind of the beginning of all of the different, because there was McDonald's and a few fast food chains, but at a certain point, just food in general across the United States just loses all nutritional value.
Dude, yeah.
I start marketing breakfast stuff to kids that has zero nutritional value. I mean, we grew up with some of the worst.
Dude, Pop-Tarts.
Right.
Dude, Pop-Tarts are
All
the
the cereals
worst. Oh my God,
Count
riddled with
Chocula.
sugar. Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
And it's great. It's
tastes
tasty,
awesome.
but it just has so much
Horrible.
sugar, all these different things that you should not be feeding kids. Now we know, but back then nobody thought about it because they grew up in kind of a little bit different time where there wasn't so many artificial things. And so, yeah, if you put something on the shelf, it had less artificial stuff.
Dude, let's be real. In the 80s, our parents were barely around. They didn't make us wear seatbelts.
Right.
They allowed us I remember riding in the back of a truck with no camper shell, just chilling out on the freeway, going 60 to 80 miles an hour with nothing to hold me in. Like literally anything, I'm dead. Different times,
Yeah, less people. There was just less things happening. It wasn't as dangerous.
But because it became so big, they marketed anything and everything, and they sold it all, and you bought it up, man.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, mid 80s, early 80s, I'm just a teenager. I don't really have a lot of money, but I tell you what, anytime I got my allowance, I was buying shit that I knew wasn't good for me. I based it off of a commercial. I based it off of colors. Like I'm someone that I will buy something if it looks cool. Like especially in the 80s, man, the pinks, the purples, the blues.
Right.
Dude, they knew how to market that to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and if you look at the packaging that Larry Cohen, he had said he'd created all this packaging for this movie. And somewhere probably he had a warehouse somewhere full of the leftover stuff. Just the leftover empty containers,
Yeah.
And but I mean, if you look at it, it's got the colors that I would have totally bought that.
Sure, yeah.
I would have, man. I know me. Dude, I would buy it now. If the stuff came out right now and they had a decent packaging, a cool logo, some cool commercials. I mean, just looking at it, it looked really good. From what I understand, it was made out of like nasty stuff. Like some of the stuff was made out of, for the movie, was made out of like, I thought like fish parts. It smelled so bad that they would have to almost if it got on them, they'd have to go take a bath or a shower just to get it off. It was foul. People were throwing up because it smelled so bad. It looked great.
Really?
It looked great, right? Some of it was made from like,
to get that consistency?
yeah, the consistency. Like certain things would be like they would melt Haagen-Dazs ice cream. It was probably like I don't know, Cool Whip, maybe shaving cream, but other consistency was made out of like fish parts.
Wow, gross. Okay.
Yeah, so think if you got that on you, oh my God. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if you think about it, knowing it smells so bad, it would add to you trying to get away from it, and it would seem more real, right? If you're trying to run away from this stuff, goddamn, dude. I wish we could have $1 for every time I said the stuff in this episode. But so Mo and Nicole go back to the quarry. He ends up getting a truck, and I think he sends Nicole back to the truck that they drove in, and but he gets the truck, he drives off, and they meet up with Nicole down the road where she's being attacked. Okay, so I don't know if you caught this part, so I'm curious about this. So when the guy is attacking Nicole,
The cop?
Was it a cop? I can't remember if it was a cop or it was just a stuffy. But she was at that beat up old truck, and she was there, and she's getting attacked, and then I think she does something, and the guy ends up falling. I don't know if he was shot, and he ends up falling on the ground, and Mo Mo runs him over with the big rig, and then his head explodes. But he runs over his legs, and I'm like, "Is it like
right.
what the hell was that?"
Because
all
it's
about?
cool looking.
Because it's cool looking. Okay, I'm fine with that.
That's right. I had forgotten about that. There are so many scenes in this movie for just a kind of a fun, what's supposed to be seems like a throwaway, because I think a lot of the movies back then, low budget. The studios were just looking for something to make cheap, and then to basically, they could just put it in all these theaters and drive-ins. People will go see it, and they make 4 times their money. It didn't have to be good. It could be terrible.
Straight up, most of the horror movies, there are good ones, but I mean, there's a lot of slashers, for instance, where they made it on some low.
They're aping whatever came out. So like Gremlins came out, they got the Ghoulies, and then Halloween comes out, and they have just all these stupid other slasher films. Yeah,
there are some good slashers, but there are a lot of bad slashers.
Sure, yeah.
But do you make it for, I don't know, call it 500,000, and then all of a sudden, people eat up horror movies, and they're making $8-10 million.
Right.
Back in the 80s, that's a huge return, man.
Yeah.
For definitely. A studio, and so this probably same thing falls under that category.
I'm sure they didn't intend this to be a conversation piece.
Probably not. But so they now go to Colonel Spears, right? We're like, we need someone that,
which is a weird idea that this colonel he's not part of the military anymore.
No, I feel like
he's got
it's
his own unit.
His own
basically,
unit.
He's a militia.
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much. And Mo doesn't really know him, but he knows of him. And he's got like this castle out there, but it's conveniently like not far from where the quarry is.
Where everything needs to be is in one,
it's just right
one area.
there. And so,
where do they film that castle? Where is that?
I don't know where that
was. Find that?
I don't know.
It's like a castle fort thing. It's strange.
I don't know if it. I know a lot of movies. Like this movie was filmed. They did a lot of filming in Canada back in the 80s. A lot, especially the slasher movies. A lot of them were filmed in Canada because it was
cheaper.
They
get tax breaks and stuff. Yeah.
And maybe it was in Canada or something. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But where the hell is this castle at? And then, but he convinces Colonel Spears to join the cause, and this is what's happening here. And so they go. Do they go back to the quarry?
The factory. Oh, well, he destroyed the quarry because he planted C4, which he happened to have. As an ex-FBI agent, we have access to all kinds of destructive. Military grade equipment.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Before he left,
before he stole the truck, he just starts planting.
Right. He starts
C4
planting
in the rock. The rocks.
Yeah. And because what they say is, well, we'll just dig it out and it'll be okay. And I'm like, okay. And so, but they go back to I think they go back to the quarry with Colonel Spears and his militia and attack the factory.
Yeah.
It's
all hell breaks loose.
All hell breaks kind of loose. Yeah, I mean, there's a mass suicide by the workers, which I thought was just weird. Right? I mean, they just kind of gave up. I don't know. I mean,
that was an odd scene because if they were they on the stuff or were they?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
they had to be. But why would they?
Because think about this. If you're you're a factory worker, right? And you're manufacturing this product supposedly. I don't know. Do you just kind of turn a blind eye to something when you have no idea what's in it? Or my guess is to control them, they have to eat it.
They would have been eating it. So I look at it as like this thing is kind of like a hive mind, right?
Yeah.
They can control people, and it has one intent to keep spreading it. It's kind of like, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
sure,
where it just keeps spreading. And why would they kill themselves then?
I don't know.
They just, even if they died, that's still got shot up. That's still an opportunity for the stuff to come out and try to get. Attack people. Because
doesn't the stuff try to attack Jason and Nicole in their no, because I'm trying to remember this. They destroy. Okay, let's just say they destroy the factory. Their idea, though, is to fly back to wherever Colonel Spears owns radio stations, which I thought was interesting. He owns like 2 or 3 radio stations, right? And I thought one of them was in Atlanta. Maybe I'm wrong, but I swore he said Atlanta for his radio station. So the idea is to let's fly to Atlanta, where my radio station is, and we're going to broadcast, a message that says stay away from the stuff.
This boy's story and her story.
But then they get there, and then all his I don't know, his military jumps out, and do they hop in taxis?
Oh yeah, that's right. yeah, they all because there's a really funny moment where they get out of the taxis and he's delegating to them to do this, but it's basically pay these people. It's just a really funny scene. I wish I could remember like beat for beat what he says, but you think it's serious. Like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, but it's basically like, okay, you need to pay your fare, and give a certain amount of tip. Like,
yes, I think he did. He said a tip or something.
That's stuff like that you realize, okay, like that's what reminded me of like Gremlins, well, especially Gremlins 2. Just those types of things that seem out of place, but they're thrown in there for comedic effect.
Yeah. So they get to the radio station. They write a message that they're going to try to get out to America, and then Chocolate Charlie shows up.
Oh right, yeah. That's always been infected. He's
infected, and then this scene is hokey, but it's kind of fun, right? Like, I mean, it's a practical effect where his mouth is.
That's like the best one in the movie.
I think so too.
Yeah, of course it looks hokey. It looks like Basket Case 3 or whatever.
Yes, it does not look
very
good.
Similar, but it's fun.
It's fun,
and it's kind of horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, and so the stuff comes out of him, and it tries to attack Nicole, and I think it's Nicole and Jason, and then I can't remember. Are they inside of the?
They're in like a little vocal,
a little booth
area.
or something, trying to get. And then when they were trying to smash the glass, you could tell it wasn't even glass.
It's like a weird optical effect.
Yeah, it was
like,
an optical
what's the
effect.
Point, just have real glass.
Just have fucking glass, dude. Is it because they thought maybe that there's if you do smash glass? I mean, look, we know there's breakaway glass in Hollywood, right? I mean,
right?
But I have heard stories where glass does get on an actor and it cuts them and hurts them. Maybe because Jason being a kid, maybe they couldn't do that.
Possibly. I was thinking maybe it's because they want that first shot of them trying to break through and getting the spider, the glass, like the cracks.
Yeah, the cracks.
And you wouldn't be able to plan that out, I don't think, without using like a real type of glass.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Breakaway glass would just smash immediately.
Yep,
so
it would.
Maybe that's what they were going for.
I just chalked it up. It was just part of the whole hokiness of the movie.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, dude, there's not even glass there. It's like some effect they created, and it's bad. But I don't know, man. I mean, hell, they end up getting out of the building. What do they end up doing with the shit, dude?
I love it. Are you talking about with the ending with the
the actual ending? Like, Jesus Christ, dude! I just watched this the other day. This is terrible about getting old. How did they eventually get rid of the stuff, though? Like I mean, I know they came out and said, "Hey, America, this is what's happening. Please don't eat this anymore." But then what did they do to the actual stuff? They were just they made like a big mound of stuff, and were they burning it?
Yeah,
I think they
Americans
were
just getting rid of it across the board, by and large, burning it.
So that killed it, huh? Does that kind of kill it? I mean, does it really go away? Like, does it evaporate?
There's any clear rules for this?
Yeah, there really isn't any.
I feel like there's not really supposed to be.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. It's fine.
I got this this reoccurring idea just keeps coming back to me where the director is just like, nah, we don't need that. Like, people are asking him, well, what about this and this? He's like, no, that's not the point of the movie. Like, we don't need that.
It's true.
He's doing things in one take. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Print it. Like, we're good.
Yeah,
it's
we're
just
good.
Most of the movies, like, this kind of doesn't look that great or real. He's like, no, it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah,
that's great.
That's true. I could see that. Yeah. Well, yeah. So then, I guess they just, I don't know. I guess no one eats the stuff anymore.
And then basically at the end, you realize that the company that hired Mo is actually in cahoots with the
with the stuff.
They've merged
Yeah.
to create a bigger company or something.
Yeah,
to
they
try
basically
to get the stuff out there.
they basically repackaged the stuff, and now they're calling it the Taste.
The Taste, right?
The Taste. And new packaging, new colors, obviously the new name, and then what he does is he makes these corporate dudes, these money hungry fucks, he makes them eat the stuff to where they get addicted to it.
Yeah, and they don't want to eat it.
No,
They've
they
never
don't.
tried
Not at
it.
first.
They don't want
but then,
anything to do with
they
it.
oh man, they love it.
And it's kind of telling because it just reminds you of these people in these big corporations that have no idea really. They know what they're selling just enough to get people addicted, hooked, to sell as many things as possible, but they don't want to have any part of it because they know this is shit. Like, I don't want.
Of course,
I wouldn't
man.
fucking eat at Wendy's. Like, what are you talking about?
I know, right? Yeah, can you imagine like some corporate guy eating a Pop-Tart? He's like, I'm not eating this shit.
Right.
Hey, Pop-Tarts are cool, man. I love Pop-Tarts.
They serve their purpose.
They serve their purpose, man.
One of my favorite lines in this movie is at the end when the kid goes with Mo to force these guys to eat this food and to end this whole thing. And they're like, you're going to make, because he's got him at gunpoint. And they're like, there's a kid here. Like, he's like, because he's like basically forcing them to do it or he's going to shoot him. And he's like, this kid lost his whole family. Like, and the kid basically says like, yeah, I've got nothing, like I've grown up. In like a month, my family's gone. Like, I'm ready. Like, let's do this. I'm ready for anything. I'll watch your brains get blown out. I'm fine.
Yeah. No, I know. It's pretty. I know. Yeah, man. That's the stuff. That's it.
It's good stuff.
It's good. It's good stuff. Okay, I got something for you here. Okay, so if you were the person coming up with a tagline for this movie. We already know there's a few out there, right? Are you eating it, or is it eating you, or
right.
Off the top of your head, if you could think of something. I mean, you just had one that was
Is this
not
a
bad.
tagline in universe that they're using, or is this a tagline that we know the gag that it's also
either or
dangerous?
Doesn't matter. Like if you're somehow like you're creating a new poster for this movie, it's coming out. It's coming out, in a couple months, and you have to market it. You have to do some marketing for it. You have a tagline for it?
I think that was my tagline.
That was pretty good.
It's good stuff.
How about if it's a... Okay, how about if it's a 80s porn?
If it's an 80s...
The stuff is an 80s porn.
Like a porn parody?
No, it's a porno. So it's not even a horror movie anymore. It is now...
Oh, the whole thing's envisioned as a
porno. Porno. Let's see. Porno in the 80s... Because those were huge. I remember I think you and I talked about this before in a previous episode where off of Watt Avenue, remember the old porno theater? The stuff, I don't know, Creamy and Dreamy. I don't know, dude. I can't think of anything.
I think I'll leave it.
Can you see that? Like you go to the video store and remember the curtains, and you go back. You go through the curtains. You only could do that if I think you were over 18,
right?
And then you see the pornos, and it says the stuff, Creamy and Dreamy. I don't know, dude. I got nothing. That's all I got. Anyways, that's it.
Bubbly, creamy, white goodness.
Oh shit.
That's why I said we'll leave it at that. And I should have.
Stuff, dude. Well, it's all fucking white and shit. It's like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
I know. We should probably leave it there, huh? We'll end on that note. Well, that's it, man. Hey, thanks.
It's a great movie. Thanks for recommending it.
Yeah, man.
I would recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, I enjoyed it more this second time around. I mean, I watched it last year and I watched it again. I'm like, okay, this has some charm to it. And if you don't take it serious and you get what they're doing, I think you have a good time with it.
Yeah, and it's something you can rewatch. It's got rewatchability.
It does.
Which is good.
Yeah. So, anyways, thanks for coming out, man. I appreciate it. And that'll do it for us. Everyone, take care. You listened all the way to the end. We appreciate that. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Ear for Fear Podcast, Twitter at Ear for Fear, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Ear for Fear Podcast. You can also check out our website, earforfear.com. There we list news and events. We're available on all the main platforms, so make sure you tell a friend. We hope you come back and get an earful.